right, we got the
Hello?
green light.
Green light?
Good to go.
Okay, let's go.
12.
I won't swear now.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. We are running a couple minutes late here due to technical issues, and it's actually our first hearing of the day, and so we're all getting our things in order. But I am Corey Williams, Chair of the Finance Committee, joined here by Councilor Caldwell, Paniagua, Hogan, and Nave. We are here to discuss the Office of the City Auditor, and would you gentlemen mind introducing yourselves?
My pleasure. Hello, everyone. My name's Alex Marion. I'm your new Syracuse City Auditor, joined here today by my very capable Deputy City Auditor, Kyle Madden, as well as our Auditor 3, Mike Gugert, and our Auditor 1, Debbie Summers. We've got a great team up there, and before we get too into the weeds, let me just say, happy birthday, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much.
Yay.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay.
There's no other place I would rather be than sitting right
What?
here with you all.
What better way to celebrate than with us?
Absolutely.
Hey, if you ever say it to me, you're going to be in trouble.
So I know you've got I don't know how lengthy it is, but you got a presentation. What I'd ask for is if you can hit some of the highlights at the beginning, then we can talk personnel, and if we got a little bit of time, we can head back to some of the additional detail in the presentation.
Certainly.
But
So,
that would be great. Thank you.
by the way, is there a clicker?
He asked you to go by this first.
Oh,
and
I
then
haven't.
you have-
I have this part on my left.
I don't have a clicker, honey.
Okay. So if you turn to the last page of the presentation, it does have all of my budget information on there. So what we have in our office, we've been really excited to get right to work. My first 100 days in office, we put out 2 reports, our first on AMAID, the second on parking tickets, and we also issued our annual report, as we and all other departments are required to do by the city charter. And we're working on a few other projects right now. And so we have our minds planted very much looking ahead, and we think that the budget that's submitted here is going to give us the opportunity to do that. So we have the staff that you see in front of you. Additionally, starting tomorrow, we have a new staff member joining us. I am hiring a secretary. It is, I'm pleased to say now, for the first time, Christina Whiteside, who comes to us from Central Current, and she's going to be a tremendous asset to the office and do some great work in-house as well as out in the community. And we are creating another position in the budget for next year of project leader. And that's going to be someone kind of on the same level as our Auditor 3 here, who can really take the lead on a number of different projects. So the way our office's workload is broken down, Kyle oversees the overall picture of what we're doing, and he takes a leading role on writing a lot of the reports. And our Auditor 3, soon to be project leader, and Auditor 1, these folks do a lot of the pretty intensive research work. They're the ones who comb through the data. They're the ones who, do the math, if you will, working on spreadsheets, going through documents, reviewing different things, and trying to kind of piece that together and helping draw some conclusions from all of that. So with more personnel in the office, we're going to be able to do more of the work. And I think I am pleased to say we've done some good work so far in the office. I think you've all seen the work that we've put out, and I hope that it is useful to you and, useful as we try to find new ways to help the city along. And, with more people and with the right people in these positions, we really hope that we have the ability to continue putting good work out and more work out.
In terms of numbers jumping around, I see the Auditor 1 is removed from the budget for next year.
Our full-time Auditor 1,
Okay.
so
But there's still a temporary services line.
correct. We have Debbie is a part-time employee of the city because she enjoys her summer vacations with her grandchildren. For those who may not know Debbie, she served, I like to say she's had every job except driving a snowplow at this point. She was our water commissioner, ran parking violations, worked in the parks department, the finance department. So she knows her way around city government really, really well. She's a part-time employee in our office, we had a full-time auditor one position, but what we thought was more important is to have someone who can do basically everything in the office that doesn't involve math. And so we abolished that position and transitioned it into the secretary to the city auditor position. So that was kind of a one-for-one replacement right there.
And then we talk about the project manager, which you're hoping to be in addition to your office.
Yes.
So the question that I've asked everyone before that brings new positions is, an issue of sustainability, whether they will save the city money, whether they will generate revenue, and if neither of those, what is the value add to the taxpayers?
Oh, well, absolutely. And I think since I've gotten here, I've tried to make clear the number one mission of my office. And if you turn earlier in your presentation, you can see our mission statement and statement of values right here. We're here to provide oversight into the decisions the city's making today and insight into the decisions the city's making tomorrow. We're here to make sure that we're getting the most value for our limited resources, obviously our limited financial resources, but our human capital, our public spaces, our facilities, our infrastructure. And additional staff in my office, I know it's always a tough ask to ask for additional folks, but our main focus is saving the city money or bringing more money in the door. That's the lens in which we view every single project and initiative that we take on. How do we make the city more sustainable going forward? And so the projects that new person's going to be working on are going to be focused on revenue generation or creating more efficiencies that end up saving us money. For example, earlier this year, we did our report on parking tickets, which I know everyone is excited to talk about. And who doesn't love talking about parking, right? That's the kind of work that I want to see coming out of this office on a really regular basis. Already in March, we saw parking ticket revenue go up $50,000 from where it was the previous year, because I think we put the fear of God into people that, hey, we're going to start ticketing more. So that's the kind of work that I expect from whoever we find to fill that role. I'm hoping we find a good nerd who can really dive into data and find ways to create more money coming in the door or save money.
In terms of projects you're thinking about or areas you might want to explore in the future,
I'm glad.
What might they be, and why is the additional FTE required to do this additional work?
I'm very glad you asked that. If you continue turning ahead in the presentation. We have a number of ongoing projects right now. We are currently working on a detailed audit of the permit and licensing operations for the city. I think that has the possibility of generating about $350,000 of revenue for the city if we're doing permits and licenses really efficiently and doing some good, thoughtful enforcement. We're doing right now work on on vacant properties. We are doing with an outside consultant our study of police staffing. But if you go ahead from there, there are some other projects coming down the road, including our Ban the Box audit, which I know some of you were here when that was passed originally, the Syracuse Fair Employment Practices legislation, I believe, our living wage ordinance audit, which are both charter required or statute required. And we're going to try to find more projects in that vein, making sure that the city is complying with ordinances, making sure that programs and policies that are in place are being followed, and finding new ways to, keep money coming in the door and making sure that we have good, we're putting our resources to work in a fashion that works well for the city. And by the way, this is some of the projects. It is certainly not the beginning and end of all projects we're going to undertake in the next few months to the next year. And it's my hope that, again, with additional folks, we can find creative ways to bring in more revenue and find more efficiencies. And if you have ideas, do let me know.
I thank you for the presentation and the layout. I would like to say, far as the ticketing I love the fact that we got a system, but I don't love the fact that that's what we're wishing on for our community to get $50,000 worth of, taxpayers. I want to, and I know that's not what you're saying, but what you're saying is we got more revenue, which is awesome, right? But I would love to see it coming in a different stream, right? And not pocket beaters, just because I don't want more money coming from people who already don't have it. I want it coming from the state and the federal. So do we have a plan to
Absolutely. I'm very glad you asked that. First of all, I just want to say the monies that came in March was not ticket revenue, it was meter revenue. And a lot of that was from downtown meters. So this is, Linda from Camillus goes to see Hadestown is paying the meter on, for the Saturday matinee, when maybe a couple months ago she wouldn't have been. So that is not necessarily money that is just coming from city residents.
Okay.
And that's one reason I think that parking meter revenue and ticket revenue to a degree are important. We see tickets get issued pretty heavily in the university area, and with all due respect, those are a bunch of kids who are coming up here from New Jersey. They're not folks necessarily living in our neighborhoods. They're guests in our community, and I think they should be good neighbors. But I'm glad you asked about revenue from the state and federal government, because the first report I put out, which again is in the presentation, was called Aim Higher. It was asking the state of New York for additional funds additional unrestricted funds going forward. And we get a $71 million pot of money each year called AIM, Aid and Incentives for Municipalities. Now, that has not gone up in well over a decade. When the program was created by Governor Pataki in 2006, it came with the promise of annual increases between 2.5% and 7.5%, meaning that this year the city of Syracuse, had we stayed on that path, would be receiving between $99 and $160 million. That clearly has not happened. Governor Cuomo cut and froze the program, and it's stayed flat ever since. But there was a lot of advocacy. I went to Albany a couple times to try to shake the trees. I wrote to Governor Hochul. I met with a number of legislators. I know you all passed a resolution in support of more AIM aid, and I think that was very effectual. I spoke with the folks at the New York Conference of Mayors about this. I think it's really important that we have a kind of statewide effort. I'm pleased to report I got the call last week when our state legislators were voting on the budget that AIM aid, in fact, is going up a little over $40 million. And I saw the official breakdown today from the Division of Budget. That's an additional $5 million coming to the city of Syracuse. So I think that work really, really paid off this year. $5 million isn't going to be the be-all, end-all to our financial challenges, but I'll take $5 million.
25 for 25?
For the upcoming year. So I'm really excited about that. And I know, Councilor Hogan, that's something you and I have talked about pretty extensively.
I had a long conversation with Assemblyman Magnarelli and a few other people.
Good.
And obviously we've advocated for a long time, but you made it special as a message from you, that we're all united as far as getting more operational money for the cities.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And it only stopped during the recession, right? Well, after
Yes.
the recession, George Bush's recession.
Exactly. George Bush's recession and Andrew Cuomo's cuts to municipalities.
Right.
He had money in his budgets for a lot of goofy projects over the years, but not for cities. So I'm glad we're finally getting some of that money coming our way.
I think that issue of advocacy, and what piqued my curiosity here is when you were talking about the vacant properties.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, I know the administration on occasion, we've talked about the idea of putting some sort of fees to vacant properties, which are basically non-productive pieces of
Exactly.
property. With the crying need for housing that we have in the city, people holding on to massive amounts of properties, as you pointed out, the Harrison House, and the administration did too. It's something that we really have to, so I'm looking forward to that type of report.
Absolutely. And I'm happy to talk to you more about, what we're looking at, what we're working on. And I think there's so much room there because every day, I live in Strathmore, I drive, to work, I see a number of vacant properties along the way, and it absolutely breaks my heart because I think they could be in productive use. Those could be homes for families, for people who are, coming back to Syracuse or calling Syracuse home for the first time. And we have so many wonderful, beautiful homes in the city of Syracuse that they should all be productive. Certainly, we should be collecting property taxes on them. And, vacant properties hurt our neighborhoods, whether it's one house on a block or an entire block of them. They're a scourge on our city. And the more we can do to put vacant properties into productive use, the merrier. Very excited to do some work on that issue.
Alex, one quick question. For the professional services, you have $25,000.
Yes.
I know it's less than what was adopted in '24. Obviously, nothing has been used. So is that just to have it there as a safety net, or is it, there's a plan for that?
Part of that is, and Kyle, chime in to make sure I'm getting this correct. We had a tremendous amount put into professional services over the last 2 years, and that's how we were paying the consultants from Matrix Consulting Group who we're working with on the police staffing study. So we are wrapping that up right now. I expect that to be done in the second quarter of this year. So next month or two, we should be wrapping that up and getting the final version out to all of you. So we used those funds for that project, and thanks to the work of the council, we now have a guaranteed right to outside legal counsel, and that's largely what the professional services line is dedicated there for. So that is the outside legal counsel that was, well, thanks to the council and to the voters of Syracuse who passed that in a charter revision last year. That money is there for those purposes.
Thank you.
Great.
Alex,
Yes, sir.
which departments are you looking at closely in the city? And are you getting cooperation?
Okay. So we have already, first of all, the way I approach the work in this office, we're not looking to do just a department by department, grocery list. We're looking for issues that are more holistic. For example, with parking, that touches 5 different departments, which is why we actually recommended in there having a consolidated department of parking and mobility to put a lot of those issues all under one roof. Because we find that a lot of city operations don't exist in a vacuum. They're very holistic. They cross departments. So we're trying to look at things broadly. But I will say, so we are looking at what's in here, and I imagine we're going to be looking at more departments and projects in the future, more issue areas. I prefer to look at it as issue areas rather than, one department at a time. But I want to talk for a moment about cooperation. And I am happy to commend Mayor Walsh and his administration because, to this point, we've had a very, very good and productive relationship. I've enjoyed working with him and his office and his department heads. I don't believe to this point we've gotten any serious substantive resistance to working on projects. And I think it's because we have tried to approach our work very, very substantively. We let the data speak for itself. We let the work really speak for itself. And I think that there is a degree of, there's a degree of mutual respect there, and we are working on making sure we just have regular and open communication between him and I directly, between our respective staffs, and
Well, you think this is a good thing?
cooperation and
Well,
communication.
I'm just saying that usually in my history in City Hall, sometimes the city auditor and the mayor have different opinions on things. So, I'm wondering, you're an independent elected official,
Yeah.
like we are, and so you think this is, it's good that you're all copacetic as far as those things go.
It has been, we have handled our relationship just very professionally. It has not been, I'm not saying that we agree on everything, to be clear, and I am happy to, explain as we go forward, disagreements we have in the future, but I think that if we are just professional and respectful and we let the data speak for itself, that we can actually get a lot done. And we've had the opportunity to work together on a few issues, like trying to promote more funding for SurgeLink. I think we can be on different sides of an issue or different sides of a conversation without being profoundly adversarial with each other about it. And I think it's our commitment, and what I've tried to say all along is being polite and respectful and trying to, like I said, let the data speak for itself, and everything else we can figure out from there.
Which department are you finding any discrepancies? Any departments you notice some discrepancies? And I'm pointing out Department of Finance, Department of Assessment, because that's where all the money, revenue goes, starts in there. And we want to make sure it's accounted for. I mean, in a more, in a legal way, there's, mistakes are being made because it's human error. I understand that. But just to evaluate those departments.
Oh, absolutely. And that's certainly on our radar. We are planning later this year to do a report on the city's cash and investment policies and cash management. Because number one, we think that's important, but number two, that's actually in the charter that we are required to do that on a regular basis. It's also in the city's investment policy that we have to review it on an annual basis. Now, when you say, am I finding discrepancies, do I think someone is going to the Lexus dealership with a city credit card? No, I have not found anything like that.
No.
Are we constantly looking for ways in which the city can improve its basic operations and more efficiently deliver services? Absolutely. Okay. And I think you're going to see that. A great example of that's going to be in our forthcoming audit of the permit and license operations, where, again, they've been tremendous to work with. They've been very cooperative. We've had very good, open, honest conversations about how they do their operations over there. But we're going to make, I imagine, a lengthy series of recommendations on ways to improve process, way to save resources, way to allocate things more efficiently and effectively based on the outcomes we think are important.
And when will that report come out? When you have a final report?
Yes. I'm looking at my team here because we were just talking about that this morning. I think probably in the next, yes?
We continue our work on that audit. I think that we're getting close. We've interviewed individuals from more than 10 departments, I believe, as a part of this. So it is lengthy, it is complex, but I think within the next few weeks we're going to be wrapping it up and providing it to the administration for their response. I would hope that we can have it on your desks by the end of next month.
Okay, thank you for answering my questions.
Of course, absolutely.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I don't know if it's weird to ask.
There are no weird questions.
We'll do it offline.
Okay.
Later.
So are you already working on the committee for revenue and expenses?
Yes,
How's that
absolutely. Going well. So I've been speaking to folks. I would like to add to this. I'm looking at outside experts, people who have experience in various areas of local government and administration. I've talked to some folks at think tanks and college professors. My goal is to release the names of the folks that are going to be part of it in the next few weeks. I'm still trying to get in touch with a few folks and figure out the best way to go about doing it, but I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a really broad, holistic view of, it's not just going to be raise a fee here, raise a fee there, cut something here. I want it to really be a broader look at how we can deliver thoughtful, innovative, service-focused government in the 21st century in a world where we have a tax-exempt property crisis, in a world in which we have a property tax cap, in a world in which we are trying to deliver increasingly expensive services to a very, serious high needs population. And so what does that look like in the 21st century? How do we change the model of how cities work? And yes, that requires revenue. That's going to definitely require, more money coming in the door. We're going to look at ways to find more efficiencies, but it's also going to be looking at what Albany and Washington can and should be doing for us, because Syracusans, as we know, are New Yorkers. They are Americans. We deserve, need, and demand a state government and federal government that are really delivering for the needs of the people in this community.
Yep. And Alex, you talk about these experts. Sorry, Pat.
No, that's great.
I'm looking at the professional service line that you said would mostly be allocated for legal. In terms of this committee you're talking about putting together,
they would be volunteers. They would be folks who, The legwork of that, the research will be done by our in-house staff, our additional staff we're asking for as well. But the experts we talk to will have probably a series of meetings at various points, or they will be asked their kind of views and opinions, and then we can put some more additional data on it. They can point us in the direction of additional resources and more folks we need to be talking to. It's really relying on some folks for some expertise and some guidance, but they're not going to be, suddenly not bringing in half a dozen part-time city employees or something to do that. It's going to be a little flip. I'm trying to find the best and brightest eggheads in local government to kind of get their thoughts and then help us point us in the direction of putting some meat on it.
Thank you.
So whereabouts, would these all be government people? Or would it be people outside of government?
It would be people outside of government. Some of the folks I've talked to are veterans of government, but they're not necessarily currently serving in any government roles.
Make sure they wouldn't have any kind of conflicts or anything.
Oh, absolutely. And I've talked to folks largely outside of just the city of Syracuse, so a few folks who are in the area. And they're people who are...
When you mentioned tax exempt properties, I was thinking of Maxwell School, and obviously they're part of one of...
Right.
We used to have, I think we used to have a professor up there who used to criticize pilot agreements all the time. For 40 years, he had worked for a tax exempt institution, so...
Absolutely.
There was a little conflict there, but he didn't see it, so...
No, I completely understand that. I'm looking at folks who have been, they're government veterans, they're folks at think tanks, they're folks who just, have dedicated their lives and careers to finding clever ways to make government work and work better and in more innovative ways. And we're trying to put that together to try to put more expertise to work for the city of Syracuse. And if I can use my office to convene, some of the best and brightest out there, I'm really happy to do that.
We have no shortage of people in our community who've held office over the many years. You can have your own advisory, let's say your own group of wise men and wise women advise you.
Certainly. We're looking at folks who have just, that kind of experience, who can really put it to work for us in new ways and help us find some solutions. Because I'll be as honest as I can. And this is not something you always hear elected officials say. I don't know all the answers. I'm not going to pretend I know all the answers. But I am going to use the office I have earned from the people of the city of Syracuse to go to work and try to find as many of the best answers as I can. And if I can get folks to return my call, I'll be picking their brains and trying to get the best answers.
Thank you.
Anyone?
Anything further?
I can be here all day, folks. You just let me know. I can just be here being nerdy.
It's okay.
All right. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your time, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.